Hey guys, it's day 19 after my rhinoplasty and fat transfer. So once again, no makeup on so you can see these bruises. They're getting a lot easier to cover up. This side, because it's still bruised, is still quite a bit swollen, including like right here on this side. You can kind of see that line, but it will go down. Don't mind my breakouts. I just like have had, I don't know, a lot of skin issues. I feel like I need to do a detox after taking all those medications and the surgery and all that stuff. So just to catch you guys up on everything, because you might ask yourself what happened to day 18, and that is a very good question. I just did absolutely nothing and didn't want to bore you guys with that. So obviously from looking at day 17 and 19, you can kind of guess what the bruises were looking like yesterday. So pretty much the stitches have been slowly dissolving. There was that one day that I showed you guys on the previous vlogs where the whole stitch string came out, just like fell out on its own. And then I had noticed that for over a week, I wasn't really seeing any stitches come out or anything. Then I realized that when I'm cleaning out my nose, at least maybe it just recently started happening, but I think it started happening the past couple days. When I clean out my nose, because I'm still doing the hydrogen and cleaning it out twice a day and applying ointment at least twice a day, the stitches, I think they're slowly coming apart, like the bits and pieces are dissolving off. It's not like that one day where the whole stitch came out and it was like this long string, because I know it was obvious, but this time it's short pieces of strings and they're hard to notice because they come out with everything else while you're cleaning, but then I'll notice that it'll be like a little string type thing on the Q-tip. But since you're supposed to flush everything out, so like you do the saline, well, I have been doing the saline rinse before I do the hydrogen and rinse everything out. So you pretty much just flush everything in your nose. So anything that's dissolving or whatever could be falling out with that. So I finally shaved. I attempted shaving. So what I did, because I hadn't shaved since like my surgery, my legs at least. I mean, I'm lasered, so like my lower leg doesn't really grow any hair. I had laser years ago and it grows like 5 hairs per leg, I swear. It worked really well. So it wasn't really bad that I wasn't shaving because my lower leg doesn't really grow any hair, but my thigh on the other hand, I didn't get that lasered because I grow lighter hair, like blonde hair on my thighs. And anyway, so on my thighs is where I was worried about shaving because I didn't want to go over the scabs. So I just kind of shaved around the scabs because on one leg it's actually healed up really well. The scabs are not really there. I'll show you guys what that's looking like. And then on the other leg, the scabs are still there. They're probably gonna fall off in a few days, but I'm not about to pick them off just because like it just makes me cringe. If it's like a scratch, I get it. Like it's not that big of a deal because you know it's not a deep like wound. But the fact that I know it was a deep wound, I just don't want to mess with it. Even though it's like so tiny. I don't know. I'm just like weird about it. It's one of those things that makes my skin like, ugh. It makes me cringe to think of like messing with it. So I kind of shaved around it. So probably not the best shave job, but it's definitely, you know, at least I feel a little bit more put together now. So let me do the close-up of my face for you guys, since that might be something that you want to see. Maybe not, I don't know, whatever, but it's what's going on in my life. So on the one side, don't mind my breakout, and you can see the lines underneath. Stitches are still doing their thing, slowly dissolving and whatnot. The doctor already kind of trimmed these ones because otherwise it was like they had like all these little hairs poking out right here, but they already trimmed that. So there's just like one stitch that pokes out of right in here. But I feel like if I just wait long enough, it's just gonna fall out anyway. But once in a while when I'm breathing, I can feel it move and it makes my nose super itchy because it makes you feel like there's something flapping in the wind, and it's enough to drive you a little crazy because you just constantly feel like you need to clean out your nose if you feel stuff like that. At least I do. So around my eye, I was telling you guys that this was pretty numb about a week ago, and it's actually, the feeling is starting to come back, so it's feeling more normal. I was getting those like zapping, like poke healing pains around my eye once in a while. I kept feeling them through my cheek, like a little dull, whatever, you get it, I think. And so now I can actually feel it a lot more. It's still slightly numb and feels a little bit different, but I can tell that it's gonna go back to normal. It's already getting pretty close back to normal. As soon as this bruise is gone, I'm sure everything will be feeling the same. This side is still a little tiny bit bruised, and but it's really getting there. In different lighting, I can't even see that bruise. It looks almost normal. So I think, like I was saying, maybe one more week, I don't know, this one's been kind of hanging in there a little bit. Also around my nose, I was feeling the same thing, like the dull poking. So it's like sometimes you feel like sharp pokes and other times they feel like more like a dull poke. And it's starting to get a little bit more feeling back. Before it was super numb. So the thing about having your nose feel numb is that it'll not like run constantly, but it'll get a little bit of a drip once in a while. I think I mentioned that on the previous vlogs. I don't know if it's like from your eyes watering, because it's just like water, but it'll be like a drop. And if you don't feel it inside your nose, it will end up out here where it's like visible and it'll be like a full-on drop. What caught me off guard yesterday was it like fully fell out of my nose. And I was like, oh my gosh. And it was such a drop that I thought my nose was bleeding. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. If you've ever just randomly gotten a bloody nose and it just feels like there's like liquid falling out. That's kind of what it felt like. And I was like, oh my gosh, oh no, I have a bloody nose. And I looked and I was like, oh. It was just like literally a drop of water that just fell straight out of my nose. But also I need to take into consideration I'm spraying saline twice a day, and it's really weird because you'll spray it, you have to like snort it up, and there's like so many weird cavities and chambers in your nose that it won't come out. For me, if I tip my head forward, it'll drain out. But if I have my head straight up, it just sits in there. It's really weird. So yeah, so that was kind of interesting. But other than that, it's been feeling a lot better. It's not as sensitive. I have been having a hard time sleeping on my back. So I've been sleeping on the side of my face a lot more, which I try really hard not to because the fat is in there and I don't want to mess it up. But it's really hard not to sleep on the side of my face. And then I keep having this dream. I've had this dream twice where in the dream I wake up and I look in the mirror and my nose is crooked, like almost like a zigzag, because I slept on my face. So I'm like so worried about sleeping on my face that I'm having a dream that I'm sleeping and making my nose crooked. It's so weird, which it's not something that I'm constantly worried about either, but while I'm sleeping, I'm concerned about putting pressure on my face. I don't know. But I'm more concerned about my cheeks because I know I'm not gonna like sleep on my nose, but either way, you know what I'm saying. And then on my legs, if I lay on it, it still feels a bit bruised. Not nearly as tender as it was a week ago, but I can still feel that something went on around the little incision area. So on one leg, on my left side, they're kind of almost hard to see, the little incision sites. On my right side, the scab is pretty dark, so it's easier to see those. But let me show you guys what the incisions on my legs are looking like. So I'm wearing shorts, so that's the one. It's easy to confuse them for freckles because I actually have a lot of moles and freckles. Moles or freckles, I don't know what they would be called, but I have a lot of like beauty marks, I guess maybe that's what they're called. You know, those are beauty marks, and then that's the incision site. So you can see it's not bad. That's the one on the inside of my leg. That one on the inside is probably the worst one. It's just held on to that scab the most. And then on the other leg, I still have not been able to find that 5th incision spot. I know it's somewhere, but I think it was just like the first one to heal. Now on this side, they're gonna be really hard to see. They're almost healed up. On the right side, they still have a scab, but on the opposite side, I'll show you. So that's one. Once again, it just looks like a freckle, and that's the other one. He did mention that it might scar a tiny bit, but obviously it's like the size of a beauty mark. It's not going to be that big of a deal, even if it does. I'm sure I do more damage to myself, you know, on my own. Sorry if it's kind of echoey in here. I am in this beautifully decorated bathroom, so... So on one of the previous vlogs, I think I might have mentioned it already, but this house is a house that I am renting. So very, very outdated. See that beautiful heart thing I don't even know what that is. I think it's like a candle holder or something. So I've never bothered to, I mean, obviously I'm not going to remodel this house. My landlord is very old and he would probably not be very happy about me remodeling any of it unless I approved it through him first. And so I just don't want to bother with it because I would be spending my own money to redo anything. And then if I take anything down, I would have to put it back up. I know because when I moved in here, he was pointing out all the things that the previous tenants had changed. And I mean like curtains no longer being up on a curtain rod. So he's obviously very particular. He also was pointing out that light fixtures were different and he really liked the way that his were. So I just know that everything that is the way it is, it just stays that way. I've only been here, I think about a year now, and there's not really a point in me putting too much of my own personal touch into it because in the near future, I'm planning to move, but I don't really care. It's definitely some hideous wallpaper, but I've seen worse. So it's not too bad, but it's definitely not the most flattering YouTube background. I wanted to trim up my stitches just a little bit more because I felt like underneath here, the ones that go across, I could still see there was some strings that were starting to pop up. They told me that if I was going to trim up my own stitches to use some fingernail scissors, I guess, but I only have these little ones, and they said definitely, of course, to clean them with alcohol before doing that. So I got some rubbing alcohol, put it on a little cotton pad and wiped them down. I already wiped them down, but wipe them again. And then you can just snip at it. I got a couple of Q-tips and I don't want to put a dry Q-tip in my nostril. So I've been running them under water and then just kind of trying to move because there's one little string that pops out only when I'm cleaning it and then it'll kind of poke out a little. So I might need to move it to see it and then I can snip it. So I think I got the tip of that one. This is so hard to do, and definitely try not to cut yourself if you're doing this. I think that's as close as I'm gonna try to get with this one just because I don't want to be putting the scissors like up my nose. That's kind of scary. So I'm just gonna mainly try to focus on the ones that are like along the septum right here. It's really hard to see. This is a lot harder than I thought it was gonna be. But right here, I don't know if you guys can see it. It's really hard to see. In person, I can see it. There's like two tiny little stitches. It's kind of a random spot. I don't know why they're there. I'm sure they're serving a purpose on the inside of my nose, but they're kind of poking out like two tiny whiskers on the side of my nostril. And my recommendation, which I'm sure is the doctor's recommendation too, is don't pull at the stitches. Because they were just so tiny and thin, I was like, oh, maybe you can just pull at it. And I pulled at it and it made it like kind of sensitive around the area, so I wasn't pulling hard, but I was just trying to see if it would just fall out, and it was not a good idea, so I probably won't be doing that again. But so I just decided, like I should have done in the first place, is just to trim it down. So the downside to these scissors is that they're not going to be cutting as closely to the skin as I would like, so it's still going to leave a little bit of a string. Oh well, that's as close as I can get it and I can still see it. I guess my mission of trimming this down isn't going to work too well. So trying to trim down the stitches isn't as easy as I thought it was going to be, or as successful as I thought it was going to be, because the scissors just don't get quite as close as I would like them to for the amount of it that's showing, because they already went through and trimmed most of it down. And I feel like the ones that were poking out have already just broken off and fallen out on their own. So the little fuzzies, I think I trimmed the side one just a little bit shorter, but it's still visible and still there if you look really closely. But I got as close as I could with the scissors that I have. So if you have those like nail scissors, the ones that are like, they're kind of curved and tiny, those will probably be able to get a little bit closer because they're thinner, if that makes sense. These are a bit thicker, like you can see, and so it can only get that close to the skin. So that's pretty much it for that. Next couple of missions are gonna be braces and Botox. So that'll be coming up. I didn't do Botox for a long time because I was saving up for my surgery and I did not want to have any extra expenses. I was just trying to set aside money for bills and everything. Oh, speaking of, the surgical center just called and left me a voicemail letting me know that I have a balance of $125. So if you watch the beginning vlogs, which I'm sure if you're like this far, you probably did because they were the entertaining ones of the whole surgery. When I was waking up from my surgery, they kept telling me to like pull it together, and I couldn't understand like what they were talking about because I was so out of it that I didn't care. I was like, send me the friggin' bill. But $125 isn't that big of a deal to me, I think, for the amount of time that I had to stay extra just because I was not feeling well. You know, it was definitely worth paying an extra $100 to be able to sit there until I felt better, just because I just remember having such a hard time keeping my eyes open, especially after the Phenergan shot. I was so sleepy. I was trying so hard to keep my eyes open and I just could not. And I just remember them reminding me over and over again, you need to wake up. If you stay here longer, it gets expensive and da da da. And I just remember being bothered by them telling me that like over and over and over again. But it was, to me, it seemed like they were telling me over and over again. But I was literally in there for at least 2 hours on recovery, and if not longer, because I didn't get out of there until like 3 p.m. and I went in for surgery at like 9. So I don't know. I don't know how long I was in surgery. I don't know how long I was in the recovery room, but I get the feeling that it was at least 2 hours. So I'm sure that like in the surgical amount that you pay them, the surgical center, I paid them $1,800 when I arrived for my surgery, and then the surgeon I had already paid. So the surgical center was already paid, and I think they probably include like an hour of recovery or something, because they like the normal amount to get you on your way and doing well. But the way that I woke up, I think I just took an extra little while longer just because I threw up blood, and yeah, so it makes sense. So it's just something to keep in mind if you are considering having surgery, plastic surgery or anything. There could be some extra costs, so definitely don't just only save up for the surgery or whatever. I mean, a lot of people probably do it in credit. I, because it was optional, did not want to put it in credit because I feel like it would have been irresponsible on my part. I'm the kind of person that if it's something that I'm doing by choice and it's not necessary, I want to pay upfront just so I'm well prepared. It's like, I don't want to go into debt over me being vain. You know, it's like, that's just not my style. So that's why I planned so far ahead of time, so long before. I'd been planning it for over a year, and then I went to the extent of not only saving up all the money for my surgery, but also saving up to pay my bills for 3 months after. So all my bills were going to be taken care of in the case that something went wrong. For example, me getting 2 black eyes and the swelling that I had. But I mean, obviously it's only been 20 days. I could have gone to work sooner if I had really wanted to. If I had a desk job, it would have been very easy for me to go back to work easily within a week after. But because I wanted to make sure that I had extra time if I wanted it, I'm an over planner, and I wanted to make sure that everything was taken care of and I didn't have to worry about anything. And it's such a better feeling to have that peace of mind where you're not stressed out while you're trying to heal and recover and thinking, oh my gosh, I need to go back to work because I need to pay my bills, and I just wiped out my entire account by paying for a plastic surgery, you know, or any kind of surgery for that matter. But sadly, other surgeries you can't really plan for, and they might not be as, you know, predictable, but hopefully people have insurance. I don't. So hopefully I never have to have a surprise surgery, but definitely for this one, because it was planned, I was able to plan for it and save up and get everything taken care of. So I will definitely, I think in about maybe 1 more week, I could go back to work pretty soon, but I might just wait 1 more week just for the heck of it. But I'll talk to you guys in a bit.